One thing that I really dig about Be Well is you guys are advocating for mental health, and like the band seems to be all about that. And based on like the press materials I read, it was about how you kind of like got Brian, like you were
It's
like you said. Sorry.
it's Brian understanding that like depression could be passed down to his daughter, and just
Yes, thank you. No.
and that it's kind of like a roller coaster and it doesn't really go away. It's just something that you're continuously working against. And the two songs that are out are phenomenal. And I want to tell you, like, I don't typically listen to hardcore music, but I listened to those songs today, and then I listened to Battery. I was like all in on it. I just felt like it's a very important topic, especially for people who are finding themselves alone during quarantine and having to like face themselves. And
Yeah.
it's Brian being very vulnerable, and the music that accompanies him just felt very hopeful. So it's not an album that's going to make you sad. It's really an album that's very uplifting and also very relatable. It's just great. It's just amazing.
Well, let me preface this with man, it is so personal. And when you've been there the whole time, boy, is it personal. And for someone who didn't write all these thoughts down, but lived through them in a weird lens and now sees Brian and his relationship with Cass, you know, his daughter, and also I have a daughter as well. We both have one kid. So we have that a lot in common. They're not that far apart in age. So we've both been kind of going through a lot of the same stages of fatherhood too. But first, yeah, let me preface this with like, all this is super personal, right? So, and I didn't know, it's hard when your friend opens up about all this, but to dig into it a little bit, yes, the band is advocating that people talk about mental health, but you don't have to like be emotionally, tragically scarred by life to enjoy this record. And also you don't have to live through depression to connect with the lyrics either, because I think what really happened for me about this record was, first I put on my armor. You have to understand, like, the songs are about Brian's life, but I feel like I've been a friend for him for a lot of it. So when he writes about times like before I knew him where people weren't there for him, that's hard to hear. Sometimes I think about his brother, Mike, who's a DC hardcore legend. Shout out to Mike McTernan. Mike's a badass, and Mike would get up there and watch Brian talk about how fucked up his family was, like in front of all these hardcore people, and Mike's standing there like ready to sing along, and it's like tough to hear that. So for me, first, I think I ignored most of the message of the album. I gotta be honest. Like, we were working on the music, I was just thinking, shit, the right hand goes like this, the riff goes like this, he's gonna be pissed if I play behind the beat. Holy fuck, Brian's crazy. So once I started understanding it, it dawned on me that, you know, I don't face depression. I face anxiety. That is my beast, you know, my mental health battle. But I'm not saying it's easier, but I've found a way to cope with that in life where my anxiety sometimes can be positive fuel for a lot of things, you know. But whereas depression is interesting because it doesn't look the same from the outside. Like, if you don't understand depression, it really doesn't make sense, because people have great things going on. Why are they sad? You know? And so for me, this record kind of put that into perspective. Like, Brian could go through this the whole time, where he could be calling me, and the whole time I could be telling him like, yeah, but shit's not that bad. Like, fucking, you got your house and your dogs and your other, you know, your studio, and you know, you don't have any debt, and you're doing your thing, and now you're working this other job, and you could do whatever you want, you know. Like, it seemed like life was positive, but now I know he was in a dark place. Sometimes depression's hard to see, and he was clearly not like talking about it with like his close friends. So it came out in this record. But that's an okay place, because now it can be impetus for people to find solace and enjoy the band. But I just would like to say, all that being said, the riffs are badass. There's a lot of other shit. It isn't all just about having a kid. So
Yeah.
I think people will have to do their own digging. But if you care enough to just see what he has to say, I think you might be drawn in enough.